Okay, I know this is probably going to be a weird intro video, but it is what it is. This is a piece of angle iron that I cut to to fabricate a shock mount off of for the bottom of the trailer. Now, I'm going to get into it in this video about me getting the steel and bringing it in and everything, but let me just tell you one thing. After I had bought the steel and started fabricating this video, I ran into a guy and was telling him what I was doing, and he says, you know, they make kits, shock absorber kits for trailers, right? And I says, what? No, you know, here I am buying all of this stuff and I never even thought of it. Well, it doesn't really matter because I looked it up afterwards, and the shock absorber kits that they sell for trailers are for smaller trailers. The biggest one that I have found so far, and this, again, what I have found so far in my limited search is the biggest is for a 7,000 pound axle, and my axles are 12,000 pounds. So regardless of the fact, what this plate was going to do was mount onto the bottom of the leaf spring U-bolts that come down through the plate, and this was just going to mount into two of the bolts, and then nuts were going to go on the bottom of them. Now, this would only be a temporary thing, just to see if this helps solve the problem, doesn't do anything for the problem. So it's only a temporary thing, but I wouldn't leave this as a permanent installation. If it does work, I would have to come up with something else, but that will be explained in some other video or some other shop update. Anyways, welcome to another shop update, guys. Here we go. We're going to touch on a myriad of things. The international truck, the trailer, getting steel, a problem that I had with a load of bollards that I was hauling for a guy, and load securement issues. So we'll get into it, and here we go. Just going to show you this. This is a new latch assembly for the trailer. Now, I talked to my dealer and asked him if he had those latches, and he said, yeah, he had them, and they were like $10. He had a couple in stock, and it would be a small shipping charge. And I just emailed him back and says, yeah, just let me know how much they are, and I'll get you a check out. And next thing I know, never got a response from him. Next thing I know, I've got a box sitting in the shop from UPS, and it's a latch assembly. That's cool. Okay, so here I'm out the trailer, and I've got that latch on. There's that new latch. I haven't taken the keys off yet. The keys are still wired to it, but there it is. Yeah. And I got all the rivet posts out of it, unlike the original one from the factory. I'm out the trailer. It's kind of early morning, early September. It rained last night, but it was cool. It's probably down to 50 when I left the house this morning. It's warmed up a little bit because the sun's came up, but it's that time of year, great time of year. You know, it's good sleeping nights because it's cool, and it just feels good in the morning because of it's cool now. Not like that stifling heat when you wake up in the morning in like July and August. But anyways, what I've got is a piece of angle iron on the trailer. It's going to be that material is going to be used to make the shock mounts on the bottom of the trailer. But I just thought I'd bring you out here and show it to you. I'm going to undo the straps and take it in the shop in preparation for cutting it to lengths and being able to drill it, get it mounted onto the trailer. It's going to take a while to do it. I'll explain it to you when I get in there, but I kind of want to cross or re-support the holes where the bolts are going to go through the shock absorbers to hold it to the angle iron. I'll explain it better once I get under there, but what I'm going to do is put like I don't know what they call them. Sometimes if you drill a hole through a beam or something, the engineer wants you to weld a plate around it, just to kind of re-support that hole, re-stiffen that hole, let's call it. I'm going to probably do the same thing on this angle iron, where the holes go through for the shock mounts. Okay, so here's that angle iron off of the trailer and into the shop. It's on the bandsaw bench. What it is 3x3, 5/16 thick. Yeah, what I'm going to do is cut it and come up with a pattern to build. So there's a shock on each side of each axle. So there's going to be 4 plates that need to be made, and I think I've discussed that they're going to bolt to the bottom of the U-bolt bracket that holds a spring. And they're going to be on the side of the trailing edge of the back axle and the rear of the front axle, and I'll explain that. I'll go under the trailer and explain why I'm doing it that way. I picked up this load of bollards yesterday, and I had an issue. I picked it up yesterday down in Buffalo, and have got to deliver it on Tuesday. This is Saturday, so I picked it up Friday afternoon and have to deliver it on Tuesday down in Norwich, New York, which is a couple hundred miles away from here. But the problem is what they did is they loaded it on these skids, and I really didn't think about this when I was doing it. They loaded them on these skids, and I just strapped it down. But see, this outboard part isn't supported. What happened is when I went over a bump, it deflected that thing down, and these things rolled off. They didn't roll off the trailer, but they rolled off onto the bed of the trailer. Let me take you, I've got the forklift under it right now holding it up, because what I'm going to do, I have to do something. I can't keep taking these things. I tried, it happened twice. I thought I had it the first time. They rolled off. So what I did is put a strap around it, but I still got one of them to roll off. It rolled down. The strap is holding it on. I'll take you over to the other side and show you what the issue is. You can kind of see the issue back there, how it's bent down on the sides. I'm going to have to re-support it. Let me just walk you around to the other side, and I'll kind of show it to you. See this, the one pipe rolled down on the side. Now it's still being supported, but what happened is when that came down from the top to the side, it loosened them up. Now they weren't that loose. I loosened these things up to get it back on again. But when these things flex down, even though I had them around there, held it up, it still flexed a little bit. And when it flexed down and you're braking at the same time, that one slid forward. So my job today is get some more support under these skids. I'm gonna put like little legs under these things to keep them stabilized. That's why I've got the forklift over there holding it up. But the trials and tribulations of hauling stuff, never know what you're gonna run into. Okay, I'm in the shop. I've got the truck back in here and it's running. It's running because I'm gonna show you something in a little while, and I'll tell you what it is after I shut the truck off, but I want the air pressure to build up on it. So one of the reasons I brought the truck in here is I'm going to show you that's a clutch pedal, and that's how much play there is in the clutch pedal. And let me just walk outside here a little bit, and we can talk where you're not getting droned out by the engine running. One of the things that I kind of want to talk about is I have bought the steel that I'm going to make the bed out of. I haven't picked it up yet. The reason why I haven't picked it up yet is my trailer is full of bollards and some tube steel that has to be delivered on Tuesday. This is Sunday, and the day before Labor Day, and I have to deliver these bollards Tuesday. So I went down to the steel company, and they had all my steel ready for, not all of the steel, let's say that. They had the majority of the steel ready for the majority of the steel that I had ordered ready for me to pick up, but I again had to load those bollards on and that tube steel that has to be delivered on Tuesday. So what I'm going to do is deliver that. The place that it's got to be delivered to is about 200 miles away from here. I'll deliver that on Tuesday morning and then come back, and what I'll do is pick up that steel that I need for building the bed of the truck. Let's walk back in here. So just basically, it's 20 feet from the back of the cab to the end of the frame as it is now. What I wanted was 22 feet. I want a little over 20 feet because I run 20-foot lengths of steel a lot, and there's going to be some room up in front where the chain rack and stuff like that is going to be. So I wanted to go with 22 feet. I actually ordered the steel 24 foot long. The reason why I did that is because you can't, here's how steel comes. It either comes 20 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet. It's an I-beam. There's going to be a 4-inch I-beam on here. So the structural steel comes 20, 40, or 50 feet. What he got me was a 50-foot length of it, and he's going to cut out two 24-foot sections. So what I'm going to do is put it on there. My thinking is 22 feet. Maybe I'll make it a little longer since I got 24-foot sections anyways. So I got the I-beams coming. I've got the cross tubes coming that go across the I-beams, and all of the angle iron that goes around the outside of it. And again, there's going to be a wood deck on it. Right now my thinking is oak. I would prefer oak, so I will be going down to the Amish to see what I can do about getting some oak for it. but the deck has got to, or the steel support structure for the deck has to be built first. So I could probably show you what I wanted to show you here. I'm gonna come up here, and yeah, I've got air pressure build up. Now there's a couple of noises that you're going to be able to hear. That's the air dryer. So what I'm not really positive about air dryers. You really don't deal with them that often in smaller trucks. I'm thinking it's probably restricted or something like that, and needs a change. So what I'm going to do is get up here on the engine. Just bear with me here a minute. And you can hear down there that there's an air leak. And what it is the fan. I should have brought a light with me, but so there's a seal or a gasket in the fan. What happens is that fan is air operated. The clutch on that fan is air operated, and the housing is leaking in it. So I'm going to have to. I've got to go down to International because I ordered new bearing and seal for that rear axle where the seal is leaking. If I got to replace the seal, I might as well replace the bearings too on that wheel or on that hub. When I go down there to pick it up, I'll ask them about a rebuild kit for this. I probably going to get a rebuild kit for it because these things can be very expensive to buy outright, even a rebuilt fan clutch assembly. And here goes the gimbal again. Sorry guys, hang on, see if I can fix it. This is what happens when the gimbal starts to go. Okay. Let me bring you back. I'm going to have to replace the batteries in it. Okay, it's the next day. I had just told you about the batteries in the gimbal going, and I didn't have recharge. The batteries extra batteries I have for the gimbal weren't recharged, so I actually had to stick them on the charger overnight and charge them up. So I was talking about the leak in the clutch. The fan clutch. So it's a housing leak, but when I go in, I'm getting the seals and bearings for that front axle, the right hand side front axle where it's leaking. They have them in stock at International. When I go in, I'll also see if they got a rebuild kit for that fan clutch housing assembly. Just to add some clarity to when I was talking about the steel length, I have there's the exhaust is sticking proud of the cab. The cab suspension is sticking proud of the cab. So I'm going to have some space up here where the material isn't going to be able to come forward. And I'll explain that in a second. So that's why I got the extra length of steel, and I'll go from what I've got. That's why I kind of ordered, instead of ordering just 22 feet pieces, I ordered 24 in case I wanted to, get into the build and extend it maybe just a little bit further. Because what I'm going to do is have some space up here that's not going to be able to be used, which I'm going to use for binders and the chain bin. in the bottom where the chains come down off of the binder rack and chain rack, come down and will sit in the bin like they do in that bin up there on the trailer. So let me take you over to the trailer and I'll show you what I did. I held the edges up with the forklift and cut these little cripples or legs, if you want to call them, and just screwed them down into that so that the sides of those pallets don't flex down anymore as I go over bumps, and it'll hold the piping taut in there. I just put the that's loose because it was dry when I put it on and it got wet, stretches out. It's amazing how much they stretch. So it'll hold it taut. The other thing that I did up here is I put all the pipes together in a row. They had been spaced when they loaded them on there. Instead of being grouped together on the top row and side by side and tight and binding against each other, there was like 3 over here and then 2 over on the other side, and there was a space in the middle. And I should have known that was probably part of the cause where that one slid forward, because they weren't tight against each other in the back. So we should have everything good now. I did the same on this rack back here. Put the cripples, or those little leg supports, in there. That under the cardboard is that powder coated tube steel that goes with the load. So what I'll do tomorrow morning is take this load down to Norwich, New York, and drop it off, and then come back and pick up the steel for the bed of the truck. But anyways, there it is. That's that. Okay, so we're in the cab of the International, and this is just going to be a brief clip about this as part of this shop update. I didn't even actually know that I was going to do this clip until I went to the International dealer to pick up the bearings and the seal for the rear end. I also, when I went there, asked about a rebuild kit for that fan clutch, and they are able to get one. It ships out of Canada, so he says it's probably going to take about a week to get it. But when I was there, I asked the parts guy, I says, listen, I've got these 6 auxiliary switches, or extra switches up here, and I don't know how to wire them. Do you have a wiring diagram for it? Because I can't find anything online. And he says, we have wiring diagrams and shop manuals, but he says they're extremely expensive. He says they're in the range of $700, $400 to $700. He says you probably really don't want to get that unless you're going to be using it on a daily basis. And I said no. And I explained about the switches. I said, listen, there's these 6 switches and 6 wires going in and out of this thing, with 6 spare switches and 2 regular switches, and only 6 wires going in and out of the thing. I don't understand how it works. And he says, I really don't know. He says, you'd have to look at it. I says, do you think I could ask somebody in the service department? And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. Just stop at the service desk on your way out. So I stopped at the service desk and I asked the guy, I says, listen, I've got those 6 spare switches in this thing. And he says, what's the truck? And I says, the 2007 International 7600. And he says, oh, those spare switches are part of the bodybuilder program. There's something that they call the bodybuilder on International. And he says what it does is those switches go back to an electronic module And I says, you mean the one that's located under the truck? And he says, exactly. And I says, yeah, I had somebody tell me about it. Actually, one of my viewers made a comment and said that these switches are wired back to that electronic module that's under the cab of the truck. He says, what you have to do is figure out what you want to use them for, and then we have to reprogram the module, the electronic module that's under the truck, to adapt to the switches. And I says, so those switches aren't any good unless I know how to wire them, and you have to reprogram the unit? And he says, yeah, that's exactly right. We have to reprogram the unit. So I might be nixed with doing that. To tell you the truth, unless I could find somebody that's got a reprogramming program, a program on their laptop where I could plug it into the OB2 port, and they know how to reprogram that electronic module, I might be better off just using the two switches that are in there in the existing wiring harness. And again, I'm going to have to figure out how this plugs go together to make those switches work, because as I said before in another video, when I went to engage the differential lock, it didn't appear to work. So, and I'm assuming when I took this thing apart, it wasn't wired correctly. So, but I explained all of that in another video. I'll try and put a link to that video up there, but if it isn't there, maybe I can get it in the description. Anyways, I'm probably better off just eliminating those 6 switches on the top, maybe finding some blanks that will fit in there. I'm going to shut you off now. I'm going to shut the truck off. I just came out here to start it up and run it for a bit. I'm going to shut the truck off. I'll take you in and take you to my truck and show you the switches that I'm talking about. They look similar in size to that, so maybe I could just eliminate them 6 switches, put a blank in there, and wire conventional switches, put conventional switches in lieu of those switches, and wire them conventionally. Here's the switches that I was talking about that are in my RAM. Now, to me, maybe it's just because they're the similar switch, a rocker type switch, but they look kind of the same size to me. So I'm going to take some measurements on them and then try and measure what's in there now and see if I can get something that'll fit in place of those switches that are in there now. And as I'm walking back into the shop after showing you that those switches in my RAM, I got the steel into the shop from off of the trailer this morning. I just slung it, picked it up with a forklift on a sling, and then just drove around it, holding the side of it by the holding the steel by the side of the forklift as I drove it with a sling off the fork. So here is the seal and bearing boxes for the truck that I picked up this morning, and I told you my conversation that I had with them about the switches. So that's going to do it for this shop update, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Okay, I'm just going to add this to the shop update. Probably only the people that live in New York would understand this. Our governor is so screwed up that it's unbelievable. He has put this state in peril because of his, and it's not only due to the COVID thing, but other issues with businesses and stuff like that. So probably the only people in New York that live in New York will understand this, but I have these shirts. I had them made up. So if anybody is interested in one, just let me know. They'd probably be like $20 a piece plus shipping costs. But if anybody's interested, just let me know.